Welcome to Quality INSITE Chat Volume 12. Today I'm joined by Lisa Goff. Welcome, Lisa.
Thanks, Brad.
First one in the new year.
Yeah. Excited to get into it.
I'm sure you are. And a good topic today. We're going to talk about companion services around how they influence additional service programs and what it's going to look like post the new Act stuff in July 2025. But probably first of all, to touch on what additional service programs are right now and how companion works. I sort of feel from my point of view that companion services are the backbone of additional services. They really do seem to resonate with residents and family members that have taken them up. And for providers that you and I deal with, it's pretty much 50% of their revenue stream and costs, but it has a fairly huge part to play in the additional services. Is there any observations you've made around companion services right now and additional services?
Yeah, look, I totally agree with what you've said there about it being the backbone of most of the additional services programs that we've dealt with specifically. And I think there's a range of reasons why, which we'll probably talk further to in a minute. But I think the absolute benefit in having that one-on-one interaction with a resident in care is just vital in many aspects for the resident as well as for the providers. So yeah, I think companion services are fantastic and definitely a tool that should be used across the board.
Yeah, and the way the additional service programs have been or are meant to have been built now, as we stand here today in January 25, is that they're supposed to have access and derive benefit and significantly better than what they would get under the care and services provision that should be done in aged care. And I guess what I see what companion service does, it takes a bit of pressure off the family. It does take some pressure off the staff in terms of the resident that wants that extra bit of care and, well, really companionship is being catered for. But from the provider's sense as well, there's some tangible benefits just in I suppose, the morale of that resident, that they're getting that extra little bit of attention.
No. Absolutely. I think that's the part that's key in my perspective is it's not even the request for attention. It's the fact that there's such a huge benefit to that person's overall well-being and it has significant improvements across the board when it comes to their ongoing care needs. You know, having someone that remains active and that remains stimulated mentally when they may not have the ability to have visitors all the time or constant engagement with their loved ones. It just plays a pivotal role in keeping that person engaged and their overall well-being.
Yeah, and we're moving towards post July, additional services and extra services gets replaced with what's higher everyday living fee or the health fee. Look, on the outside of it, there doesn't seem to be any significant changes that would impact a service like companion. It seems to absolutely be the service that would shine and highlight there. I guess the key difference is when we see people opting out of services, and they can do a lot more easily post July 2025, they don't tend to opt out of companion services. They actually really engage in more of those companion services. You're seeing a lot more of that as well, Lisa?
Yeah, I absolutely am. I think what is key, though, is for providers to understand the benefit to the person and to really understand the value that service can provide. From my perspective, it's all about how that's communicated to the family in order to make sure that they see the value in it and that they understand the benefit that their loved one is going to receive. I think additional services across the board are at times viewed as expensive or, something that's not necessarily mandatory or that they don't have to have. But the absolute benefits that are available through companion services means that the derived benefit, as you said, is always there. But there's such a significant value to that person in care. So having the right explanation and having that right understanding with the family members means that they're more than willing to keep it going and, like you said, bolster it up and add additional hours into that program.
Yeah, and nice segue into what the resident benefit is. So one of the key training points that we deal with a lot is features and benefits. And if we looked at that sort of mantra, well, the feature is the companion service. the benefit, there's multiple. We've already touched on a few, but a couple of that I want to labour on a little bit more. It provides, the way I see companion services, they provide some structure for that resident in their day. Now, we've seen residents that have got 1 hour a month. We've got other residents that have got several hours a day that we've seen in their program, but it's always got to be residents' choice. It's always got to be tapped into what will actually help stimulate that resident a little bit more. Some input from the family of what they would like to see from that resident's engagement as well. But it really comes down to, if that resident wants to feel that companionship and connection, and they might not have had that for the last several years living at home. We know in care that there's only a small percentage that actually get a visit from a family member that are able to visit. We've seen in our resident cohorts that we've dealt with that there's family willing to be there, but they just simply can't. They're not in the same city. Work and family engagements are keeping them away. So what companion service does, it provides that structure of that support in my book for the resident. Any others, Lisa, that you can see that provides that benefit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just touching on what you said about family members that can't attend, I think there's a really important point to note there, as well as that carer guilt that families often experience when they have a loved one that goes into care. And I think the transition period for someone going into care for the first time is difficult for both the resident but also the family. And knowing that there are options to have one-on-one companionship firstly helps that resident be orientated with the rest of the facility and be introduced to residents and activities that might be available. But it also gives the families that peace of mind that they're not just dumping someone in care and that's the end of it and they'll be sitting by themselves. They have that peace of mind knowing that their person is going to be receiving one-on-one companionship and, you know, the opportunity to engage in things that they may like, and to really build a connection with their people that are coming in and doing those services. And I think that's key. Having teams that really understand the value of what they're providing and the fact that it really is benefiting that person's well-being, and that their sole purpose for the day is to improve someone's quality of life and to, you know, make their day the best that it can be based on the activities that they choose, then I think it's, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, and I think that's the key there too. And it's a nice segue to the next bit when we talk about how to homes that set this up and monitor it. But if you don't have that 100% commitment from the care home in its entirety, companion service is a bit of a nonsense in terms of you just got someone sitting there or wheeling them into lifestyle activities. We've seen some providers where the companion bit really is just they just sit with them while they play games or whilst they watch a movie. It's companion has got to be what's in tune for that resident on that day, and the input from the family to help alleviate that sort of boredom and anxiety and all these other things that go on. So it's a really important point you made around that you need engagement across the board, that people get it. And they do need to be trained. The staff do need to have some sort of training that's in the background to help with that.
Absolutely. And I think you do see quite often as well where there could be, you know, external companies that have been engaged prior. It might be through a home care package and they've kept that ongoing support with that one-on-one care. And again, if that carer or that team doesn't understand the value in the companion service and, like you said, is just sort of sitting there as an innocent bystander rather than a real engagement piece, then that's not providing the companion service that you'd expect for a loved one. It needs to be an activity or a service that is absolutely beneficial to the person. And there's so many different things that can be done and so many things that I've seen happen across the facilities that we've been involved with. So I think that the opportunities are endless as long as there is an absolute genuine value for the person.
Yeah. And I suppose the last point here, and it's a valid one from providers that we've spoken to in the past, is you've got care minute obligations that have got to be met. It's hard enough to find existing staff as it is. Then you've got to be able to manage the schedule. And there isn't anything out there that you and I have investigated and found in the marketplace that helps schedule rostered staff in for these services. So we've taken off our own bat. We've built Schedule Me, and I'll get to explain a little bit more around what Schedule Me is, but just touching briefly on the care minutes and the staffing needs. Now, we've actually gone and engaged third parties, so similar to agency, but not quite, third parties that can take up that staffing gap on companion and provide an adequate service for user-pays services, which means that the provider can still manage their own staffing and their clinical care, but you're meeting your obligation under the user-pays services through our third-party connections. So it is an area that's quite difficult if you aren't meeting your care minutes, but we've got solutions around that. The other solution, Schedule Me. So Lisa, your background's all been about scheduling and planning over the last umpteen years. Schedule Me, what benefit does it bring to the provider?
Oh, there's so many different benefits, but I think the main one is providing visibility of what your workforce requirement is firstly, and making sure that everyone that is due a service is receiving a service in the month. I think it's such a difficult thing to plan when you've got a large number of residents in a home or a large number of hours that are due per month across the board for companion services. There are complexities in scheduling it because there's a real difference between rostering, obviously, and scheduling. And to be fair, the schedule drives what should be rostered. So understanding what the requirement is to service, being able to clearly see it in real time and being able to plan those services effectively and so that they are beneficial for the resident. Again, you're not going to want all of their monthly services for a resident done in the first 2 days of the month. You're going to want them spread out across the course of that month so that it does provide the benefit. Just having the visibility over being able to see that and being able to plan it. And then on the flip side, for the staff members or team members that you've got doing those services, having their option to view their calendars or their schedules from a device and to mark them off in real time as completed, to add comments to things, and to also capture any refused services for whatever reason there could be. All of that is why we've built Schedule Me, because we didn't find anything off the shelf that suited this style of service when all of the services are being delivered at the one premise. A lot of the scheduling software that's out there is all based off the fact of someone traveling from point A to point B and so on. So that's where Schedule Me was born. And I think it's that comprehensive visibility and also transparency when it comes to providing evidence that services have taken place or that services have been attempted to be taking place.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, that's about all the time we've got on volume 12. Thanks, Lisa, for joining me and going through that. Any final thoughts on additional service and companions that probably really does need to be highlighted?
Not too many. I think we've covered off quite a bit. I just think knowing what's coming with the Act and understanding the real benefit and value of companion services, I think it's a massive leverage point when it comes to this change. And I think it's an opportunity for providers that may not have companion services as part of their program to seriously consider it and work out a way that they can make it happen. Because, like we said, the derived benefit is always there as long as you've got the right people delivering that service. And families will see the value in it if you can explain it properly. Yeah,
and it is a great service for not only revenue generation, but for the resident themselves. Thanks again for those listening and watching what we do. If you like what we do, please like and subscribe. Please make comment. If there's any additional content that you'd like to see with this sort of stuff, please reach out and let us know, and we would love to do it. Thanks again, Lisa. Take care, and we'll see everyone soon.
Thanks, Brad.